Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview on Human. Tonight, we will be interviewing King Vir2ue. I will wait until he comes on board so you can get his real name, because I do not want to mess up his name. But we are going to wait for him to come on board. Give me 1 second. There he is. I'm excited to bring him on. So, without further ado, here we go. Let us start this interview.
What's
Hey,
up?
what's going on? What's up, my man? How you doing?
Good. I see Tony. I ain't see. What's up, Tony Dimes? What's up so soon? And what's up
Yes,
to you, human world?
yes, indeed.
AKA
How's
Floyd.
everything been? First and foremost, um,
Man, it was a
before
day.
we get into anything,
Yeah.
how does my background sound? I do have somebody currently working on landscaping at my house right now, and so there's a
Um.
lawnmower going by. Is there? Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, it sounds good. I was gonna say the same thing. I have a fish tank in the background. I don't know if you're picking that up. The filter
No,
going. All right. Cool.
no, not like that. No, not at all.
All right.
Greetings.
Yeah.
Wow. So, it's been a long time coming. I can't wait to get this interview kicked off. So, how are you feeling today, first and foremost?
I am better now. It was just one of those days in the 9 to 5 world. Just crazy day at work, and I'm just glad it's over. But
Yeah,
I'm
I know
here.
the feeling.
Yeah, it happens.
We are definitely here, and that's what counts, right?
That's right.
Um,
And I appreciate you pushing it
please,
back. I really do. Thank you.
hey, it's no problem. I know that things come up, and there's been times when I had to cancel an interview on my end because of certain things that came up. So,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
it's fine and dandy, no problem. And plus, I was looking forward to this interview. On top of that, to see, learn more about you and who you are as a human. So,
Thank you.
um, please introduce yourself to the audience by just telling us a little bit about yourself before we dive in.
Yes. So, as you alluded before, I know you didn't want to mispronounce my name. So, my name is Arric Patillo, not Patillo, which is the common misconception because of the double L's and of my complexion. People assume that I am actually of Latin descent, and I am not. So it's actually Patillo, not Patillo. Um, and I go by King Vir2ue as a producer.
Okay. Okay. Also, what is your ethnicity?
Yes, so I am blanco y negro. I'm just kidding. Just playing on the old Spanish thing. So I'm black and white. Um, only Spanish I know is what I learned in high school and middle school. But yeah, my mom is white and my dad is black. So I am half and half.
Okay. Okay.
Now
Uh,
the Patillo name, which is on my father's side, is actually
hmm.
Sicilian. Um, Apparently, in our lineage, there's Black Sicilian, and the Patillo name has made it all the way through to me and my kids. So it was interesting when I found out a little bit about my family history that the name actually derived from Sicily, and it was carried over. Yeah, so it was pretty interesting. But I most often am called Patillo because I look Puerto Rican or Dominican or Cuban or any Latinx that you can imagine. So
Listen, the hat, the hat seals the deal.
yeah,
Just to
yeah,
let you
right,
know.
right. And in fact,
And,
I actually had a lady once argue with me because she's like Dominicano. I was like, no hablo, and she was like, oh yes you are. I was like, no, I'm not. And then she literally got mad and started yelling and cursing at me in Spanish, saying she thought I was denouncing my heritage, that I didn't want to admit that I was Dominican. I'm like, I swear, ma'am, my mom's white and dad's black. Like, I'm not lying to you. I'm not Spanish. I swear to you. Yes, you are. Okay. So that was an interesting day. Yeah, I swear. I get it all the time. Arric Patillo. No. Patillo, like Costello. Anyway.
no.
Yeah, yeah,
I've had that happen to me before in Miami, except they didn't try to push it on me. I just had to let them know because I was wearing a Kango and I'm, of darker skin tone. They thought
yeah,
I was Cuban, and I had to let them know that I wasn't Cuban.
yeah.
So
And not that I mind it, but I'm just like, man, it's like, it's you take pride in your name and your ethnicity, whatever it may be. And when people assume one thing because of complexion, not realizing that obviously different ethnicities come in different colors, right?
hmm
A lot of people
hmm
don't realize that because they haven't been outside the country or they're just not well cultured enough to realize that almost every culture has a different shade of that.
right, a multitude of shades, right,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that people grow up in. Um, where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota,
Okay.
um, and I was raised in Long Island, New York, from the age of 1. So my mom got on a bus when I was, I believe, 7 or 8 months old, and took a bus to New York with about $100 in her pocket, and decided to make it. Like literally, just took a bus to New York, and uh, that's where she met my dad. She was a waitress, and she met my dad, my stepdad. So to kind of give some clarity, um,
hmm
and they got together, and she moved in with him. And I was raised on Long Island, and they stayed together until he passed when I was 18. So I grew up in Long Island my entire life.
Mm. What was it like
Um,
growing up in Long Island?
it was awesome because it's kind of the best of both worlds. So it was the suburbs. The city was less than an hour away, right? So the
hmm
proximity to Manhattan, in New York, the greatest city in the world, it allowed for a lot of cool experiences to be able to take trips into the city, from school trips to, um, and then obviously as I got older, the club scene and everything else. But no, it was just cool growing up in the suburbs with a lawn and a backyard and skateboarding and basketball and going fishing and um, I had a very diverse neighborhood, so it wasn't just white or black or so it was cool. I was in the Cub Scouts, you know what I'm saying. So it was
Oh,
good upbringing. Um, and since you mentioned that so soon, shout out to so soon. I know he's in here, and I know he's been a connection between us. Um, to
hmm
put him on full blast, right? So he's my cousin, but he every summer he would come and spend the summer with me from childhood. So from the time we were both kids. So he's a few years younger than me, not by much. But he would spend every summer because he lived in Queens, and
hmm
his mom wanted him to not just get into trouble in the city and come spend time in the suburbs and stay out of trouble and kind of get more of the slowed down version of life versus the fast pace of the city. So that's where we formed our bond as cousins, but also later on musically and things of that nature. So me and So Soon
hmm
literally are not only family, but go back since we were kids. I was there for his first rhyme and until now. Yep.
They
So
say
I
there's
actually,
nothing thicker than blood. I see. I see. It's
yes.
good that y'all was able to stick together for so long, Especially, sometimes family members go their own ways as the years grow on,
Oh,
from a multiple.
so
I know
soon
for
said, don't make shit sound like I'm from the hood. All right. Yes, you're not from the hood so soon. You are from Jamaica, Queens. All right. I never said that. But those
I'm
I
actually from
yeah.
Queens myself. I was raised in Queens, in Rosedale, Queens, which is much more closer near the racetrack. I think it's Belmont Racetrack. That's in that area where Green Acres Malls is also located.
Yeah,
So
that's
you're right near the
yeah.
LIE. hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go see my aunt in New York all the time. So I mean, excuse me, in
Okay.
Long Island all the time. I visited her several times. Um, what is a lesson that your parents taught you that you'll never forget?
Man, that's a good question. It's a broad question though. Because there've been many lessons. and I've gotten different lessons from my mom and then from my dad. So, is there a particular parent that, in general, or you're just saying in like a life lesson? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah,
tough
like a
to
life
answer.
lesson. No, a life lesson. More so like a life lesson.
Okay. Well, they taught me indirectly about loss, and what I say by that is, because I lost my dad at the age of 18, my freshman year of college. Um,
Mm.
it changed my perception of the world and how I deal with death. I was able to, at a very, in my opinion, an early age, kind of have a full understanding of the circle of life and
Hmm.
a greater appreciation for the time that we have here on Earth. So, um, indirectly, not just like a sit down, hey, just so you know, we die and all that. What I mean, they taught me a lesson in that we don't know how much time we have here on Earth. So I know it's cliche to say, but we really do need to appreciate the connections that we have with each other, whether it's through relationships or blood, your parents, relatives, whatever it may be, because we just don't know if today's the last day. So it really,
Hmm.
really kind of put that, it instilled in me indirectly and directly, to really cherish each day. I try not to go to bed angry, and I try not to wake up angry because I
Mm.
know how fleeting life can be. So
Yes. Yes. Especially in these times. Yes.
yeah, so
Yes.
that's a lesson that they taught me without actually sitting down and talking. But there was many particular lessons that I would say more that my dad taught me than my mom, in terms of how to be a man. Certain things that I look back on and say, okay, at the time I didn't like what he was doing because it felt like punishment. But when I got older, I was able to look back and appreciate it, and thank God that he did teach me those type of lessons.
Well, can you give us an example of one of the lessons he taught
Absolutely.
you?
So a perfect example is, what I would do is, I have a pretty extensive vocabulary, and that is because, excuse me, for any type of punishment, what my dad would do is he got the news day every day. So he read the newspaper. He was a
Hmm.
newspaper man. So
Hmm.
when I got home from school, before I could go out and play or do whatever, I had to read the newspaper. Not an article. I had to read the newspaper. So not the sports section, not the entertainment section, the news section. And so at first he got hit to me saying, yeah, I did it. And I would just kind of peruse through it, right? So then he started realizing that I clearly wasn't doing it. So then what he would do is he would actually pick out certain articles after the fact and then say, and he wouldn't tell me which ones they were going to be, tell me about what happened here. So I would have to read the entire thing, or I wouldn't know which ones he was going to pick in the end. The lesson
Mm.
is the lesson is while I was reading the newspaper, he made me have a dictionary and a pad next to me while I was reading it. And anytime I came across a word that I didn't know or understand, I had to write out the word, and then I had to look up what the word meant every day. Yeah. Then when I was done, I could go out and play, skateboard, do whatever. At the time, I was like, are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? I'm 10, 11, 12. Like, this is nuts. My friends are out skateboarding, and you're making me read a newspaper and look up the word facetious. What?
Mm.
But at the time, and then he would say, tell me what this word means and how did they mean it in this article? So after a while, you start retaining words. That's why I started learning how to, spell words well, and understanding certain words that I just never would hear otherwise if I didn't read the newspaper. And he made me write them down and look them up. So at the time, it was crazy, and now I do it to my kid. Not every day,
Okay.
but in punishment, I'll make them write an essay or something like that. But just something that will challenge their brain. So instead of, just getting a whooping, which I got plenty of those too, but in the end, it was something that was very much beneficial in the end because, like I said, my vocabulary is pretty extensive. I'd like to think, but it's in large part due to him making me look up these big ass words that I had no idea what they meant at such an early age. So that's one of the lessons.
Mm, mm. My grandmother was like that too. If I was struggling in the grade and to pass a certain grade, she would make sure that she locked me in for the summer and prepared me. I didn't go outside like that. I didn't get to have fun like that. I had to prepare for the next grade that was coming. That's how I became so great at cursive. I'm extremely
Ah,
good at writing cursive. Yeah.
right. I bet at the time you didn't enjoy it, but yeah.
I did not enjoy it at the time,
And one
but
other
it
life lesson that I would like to bring up
hmm
because it's so important um, because my mom was white and my father was black. You know, we had the conversation, and you know what I mean by the conversation about getting pulled over by the police. So he sat me down. I think I was probably 14, and we had the conversation that every young black male or person of color has with their father if they're fortunate enough to have that
mm,
conversation or someone to explain to them what to do and how to behave if approached by or pulled over by the police. And he prefaced the conversation with, "I know your mom is white and I know your dad is black, and I know you identify with both sides, but I need you to understand that the world does not see that. The world sees you as a light-skinned black man, right? So you're
mm,
equally white, you're equally black, but to the world, you're just a lighter shade of a black man. So just be prepared to be seen that way, particularly in the eyes of the law." And he proceeded
mm,
to have the conversation of, you know, keep your hands at 10 and 2, no sudden movements. If you can, because this was before I was driving, but, you know, if I'm in the car with someone that was, you know, keep your hands out in front so they can see. And this is, you know, 1994, okay? So this is before cell phones and everything else. They've been killing brothers for a long time. We know this. But I had that
hmm
conversation, and it was very impactful, you know, because up until that point, I never really considered that I was perceived as just a black guy. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't dawn on me that there would be other people in other cultures and police officers or teachers or whoever that would essentially just see me as a light-skinned black dude. And that conversation,
mm.
you know, stuck with me and it meant a lot. He was like, you gotta see yourself that way because that's how you're going to be seen, and you need to also act accordingly. So that was another lesson.
Mm. How did music play a part in your upbringing?
So my dad had an amazing jazz collection. He was big on. He had a nice turntable with some nice Pioneer speakers, um, and he would just love. He just loved jazz music, particularly, but loved music in general. But he would play, you know, Earth, Wind,
Mm.
and Fire. You know, our favorites,
Mm-hmm.
Stevie Wonder, like I said, James Taylor. But he had a lot of Peabo Bryson, a lot of you know Coltrane, Miles Davis. You know, a lot of the classics. Even 45s. We had 45s, and we even had 38s. The old records that if you actually dropped them, they would shatter. We had records that were that old.
Mm.
Yeah, 38s. People don't even know 38. They've heard of 45s, but they didn't know about the 38s. Or no, 70. Is it 38 or 78? Which is the regular size one? Is that 78 or 38?
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Those
I'm
two
not
help me
sure.
out. You should know. Anyway, whichever one that is the really the before 45s. That was we even had those records. So just to kind of get through the day, we weren't big on TV. We had one TV in the household, so he would throw on a
Mm.
record. So I got exposed to a lot of different musical sounds early on, and I didn't know what they were, but I enjoyed the vibration, and he had very good quality speakers. So I would ask him, "Hey, who's this? Or what's this? Or you know, what is this sound I'm listening to?" Because it wasn't being played on the radio. Um, and you know, he would kind of give me a little backstory. Like, oh, you know, this person, you know, does this, and he was inspired by this person, and you know, listen to the trumpets in the background here, or listen to the violins there, and kind of give me somewhat of a backstory on the Harlem Renaissance and how important jazz was. So it was kind of a learning lesson, but
Mm.
also just really cool to hear music that I just wouldn't be exposed to by for any other reason, just because it wasn't being played on the radio. So the music impacted me indirectly because I didn't know that it was influencing me at the time. I just was hearing things that I liked, and over time in my head, it grew and grew on me to where, fast forward to now, you know, it heavily influenced my production style and the way that I view and craft my production. And probably one of the number one reasons why P-Rock is one of my favorite. It switches, but one of my favorite producers of all time.
P-Rock is definitely up there also on my
Yeah.
on my list of producers. I
Particularly
love
growing up,
P-Rock.
you know.
P-Rock and CL Smooth.
Yes.
To this day, P-Rock and CL Smooth are, in my head, the number one duo. In my head, I really do love their music. For those who don't know, my name is Troy, and one of my favorite songs was Troy by Pete Rock and CL Smooth. They reminisce over you, which a lot of people don't know, but that sample is actually, I think, from a jazz album, and he
Oh
looped it,
yeah.
and now it's one of the greatest samples to ever
Absolutely.
it's one of the almost greatest samples to ever live, to be honest. And for those of you who are wondering where the original sample is from, I did a previous interview with a man by the name of Kyle Eagle, who knows exactly where that sample is from. He did name it in his interview. So check out that interview on Mixcloud when you have the
Oh,
chance, just for those in the audience, where he actually goes into great detail as to actually where that sample comes from.
hey, I
Real
wanted
quick
to
though.
address a comment by Destiny's
Yes,
Lust
yes,
House. Yeah.
yes, we could definitely go ahead.
So she said, "Do you feel like you fit in more with one race than the other?" And my son is mixed and says he feels like both races just tolerate him. So now, no. When I was younger, yes. So it was a very tumultuous time, and for anyone that grows up biracial, particularly if you go to a school where it's diverse, it was very difficult because you have an identity crisis where, for example, if I dated a white girl, black girls would clown me and say, "Oh, you're selling out." But in my mind, I'm like, well, my mom's white, so how am I selling out? But then if I wore Umbros and soccer shoes, I'm getting killed for dressing white or talking white and not being black enough. Or then if it kind of went both ways. So there was like, I never felt like I had to adapt, but I definitely felt more pressure from my black friends, and then particularly black women were very aggressive with how they thought that I should present myself, which is as a light-skinned black man. So that during the middle school ages, it was really, really rough on me. I remember one day I had the audacity to wear a do-rag a la Tupac. I mean, literally the whole nine with it. And they fried me like chicken. And I mean, I got it bad. They roasted me like, are you? I mean, it was bad. But it was weird. I didn't know what to do. Like, one day I felt like dressing this way because it was just cool. You know what I'm saying? Black or white. So now, do I identify more with one race? No. But because since that conversation happened with my dad, and as I grew older, I felt that I guess I was leaning more towards my black side, just because of how I'm perceived. Most of the time, people just think I'm just a light-skinned black dude or Spanish. So I don't identify specifically with being that, but I guess I identify more with being a person of color.
I see. I see. That is a very sweet medium. Very sweet medium. Yes, it is.
My signal there?
Wh-
Hey, is my
Before
signal
we
okay to you?
your signal is a little bit choppy. I was just letting it continue going because of the audio. The audio was coming through.
Give
Yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah,
give me
definitely.
one
Yeah,
second.
it was choppy on my end too. No problem. Just try not to take yourself off video, please.
All right. Well, I was just gonna take off of Wi-Fi and use my 4G, and it might fix it.
That's fine.
All right.
That's that's perfect. Yes. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's actually yeah. You're moving in real time, which is great. Yes,
All right.
this is where we are back on. Yeah, actually, yep, very smooth. Mm-hmm. This is
Oh, okay.
good
Thank
because
you,
most people
Richard.
are going to
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you. I said
Yeah.
thank you also.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to wait for a moment that would have been perfect for me to pause it to fix that, but it's a good
Gotcha.
thing that she intervened. So that was great. Um, we're gonna go ahead and address some of the
Sure.
comments. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't like being called black, woman, or person of color, but only sometimes black for the people who are used to the word. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Definitely
Sure.
understand that. I myself just go by the title human. You know, I think that
Sure.
that's the best fitting title that I could use for myself is that I'm human, because I also believe in a metaphysical. I believe in the metaphysical also outside of just what I look like in person. So to me, this is like a shell. You know, obviously, it's important that
Sure.
I take care of the shell, but at the end of the day, I'm human just like you. You know, so that's what I think resonates well with me. Moving forward, who is
Sure.
your favorite jazz artist?
Thelonious Monk.
What's his name?
Thelonious Monk.
Thelonious Monk. Do you have any music from him that you could just play a snippet of?
Uh, I mean, it varies. I mean, Coltrane, of course. Peabo Bryson was a big one
Coltrane is
because,
good.
um, but I could play you.
Yeah, play me a small snippet. We're gonna talk over it just a bit because I don't want to get copyright infringement.
Yeah, I got you.
Give me 1 second. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. We are back. So yeah, we're gonna talk over this a little bit, just because, like I said, it's real easy to get hit with copyright. But it sounds nice so far. You know, I love the smooth. You
Yeah,
know, so
Thelonious Monk.
what is it about his style that stands out the most to you?
I'm sorry, what you say?
What is it about his style that stands out to you? Give me a second. Let me hit this.
All right. Um,
Hold on. I'm sorry.
there's another question there. See, now you got Teddy Riley Wi-Fi.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to reconnect the Bluetooth and now I look stuck. I look like, wow. Um, this is good. All right, yeah, we're back at 100%. Continue.
Yeah, just he's really big on the piano, and I love piano. I mean, jazz obviously encompasses a lot of different elements, but he's just dope, and I think it's more nostalgia than anything. I mean, there's some records that I still have in my dad. Like I'm looking at the record collection right now, and there's still some records in there. And I don't even know how my dad even heard of them. And you know, when I'm looking for a sample or I'm looking for just something chill in the background, um, it's just so eclectic. I mean, jazz is such um, a massive um, it just covers so much. It's, a lot of people think it's just the big names that people know of, but there's so many jazz artists, and there's contemporary jazz artists that are phenomenal, that are still keeping it alive. But people just think of the classics, and they kind of leave it at that. But jazz is still alive and well to this day. So for me, I think it's just nostalgia. My dad played him a lot, so it kind of brings me back to those father-son moments, and hearing it for the first time and being like, "What's that? And why does it sound offbeat, but yet I like it?" Because jazz is very free. I mean, if you know about jazz music, it's very free.
It is very free. Yes, it broke
It's
the rules of music. hmm
yes,
because you
it's
can
very free form.
it's
So
very free form. Yes, I'm looking for the word. There's a word on the tip of my tongue that I can't get out right now. Where you're following the rules for a bit, but then you go off and
it's
do your
fluid.
own thing. Improv. There's a lot of improvisation when it comes to jazz. Yes, there's a lot of
Yeah,
improvising, which
and
is what I
I mean,
like.
if you want to look for a woke word, it's fluid. It's very
It's
fluid.
fluid.
I'm just
A
saying,
woke word.
man.
That was funny. Look for a woke word. But without further ado, I wanted to dive deeper into your craft. And I wanted to address a question that was in the comment section that I also want to ask too.
Yeah.
Um, what is, how did you come up with the name King Virtue? Was that given to you? What was that? That is a great name.
So, no, it was not given to me. I originally was a beatboxer. All right, my first MC name was actually Bebop, like Bebop and Rocksteady from Ninja Turtles. You remember Bebop and
Okay.
Rocksteady? Those two weird looking. So I thought that Bebop was a cool name because I beatboxed. Okay, so like my old rhyming book actually had like Bebop. I tried to do graffiti. It was horrible. Um, but so I originally was a beatboxer. So I was good at it. I was definitely good at it. Don't ask me to do it because I'm rusty. But I'm good. I'm a good
Okay.
beatboxer. I
Okay.
promise you. People
It's
in
funny
this,
because I was coming next.
people can attest to this. I promise you. But yeah, I was at one point. I was like really good at it. So, have you ever heard of Afro? He rolls with a dude named Ari the Rugged Man. He's a chubby black guy with a really big afro.
I would have to
Uh,
see
you've heard
the image.
Brazel from the Roots?
Yeah,
Brazel?
I know the roots. I'm
All
pretty
right.
familiar with the roots.
Doom, 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 doom. That's him beatboxing. All right, if you ever heard. All right. But anyway, yeah, so I started out as a beatboxer and then I started rhyming later on. Now, the name comes from. I, I considered myself to be somewhat well read during college. I read a lot of different books, particularly after my dad died. I kind of went soul searching, read a lot of different religions from
hmm
Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism. I mean, I really read up on a lot of different, kind of, in a cornball way, like, eat, pray, love, like just trying to like figure it out. Like, what does this all mean? I was raised Catholic, but my dad died in my arms at 18. Where do I go from here? That type of thing. So I
hmm
uh, I was big on one of my favorite quotes of all time, which I have tatted on me, is "Chance favors the prepared mind." Okay,
Mm.
so I actually have that tatted right here on my forearm.
Okay.
That's how much it means to me. Okay, and if anyone that wants to know what that means, it basically, there's different variations of it, but chance favors the prepared, right? Meaning, if you're prepared and the opportunity presents itself, you have a better chance of succeeding if you are prepared. So the
hmm
virtue part comes in. I love the word virtue, right? There's something about this virtuous, right? I love the word virtue. And the king just made it sound cool, right? So when I was rhyming over drum and bass with
Mm.
Tony Dimes, who's in here right now, Tony Inc., I went by MC Virtue, and he went by MC Tony Dimes. Because, in that scene, you called yourself MC such and such. But I added the King just because it sounded cool. Now, I ended up changing the way I spell it, because when I always went by King Vir2ue, spelled traditionally, and then when I decided to actually start uploading and doing music on a grander scale, found out apparently there was another King Vir2ue that existed, and it was a white group, rock band group called King Vir2ue. I was like, okay, didn't know that, so I thought it'd be cool. I wanted to keep the name to put a little spin on it, and I said, well, what if I changed the T to a 2? And now I think it's the greatest thing I ever did because it makes me stand out. Doesn't work well with Alexa. Alexa does not respond well to it. If I gotta say Vir2ue, but yeah, I'm happy that I actually did do the name change, because there's definitely not going to be another King Vir2ue with a 2 in it for sure. So I don't know if that really answers the question. I mean, there's no real cool story behind it, but I just love the word virtue, and then the King just made it sound cool. So I know it's not a great story, but
no, it's still a great story. It's part of the story as to who you became, who you are now.
It stuck with
No
me.
problem.
Once I kind of got the ring, like when I started singing, I'm like, I like the way that sounds. Like the way it rolled off the tongue, like King Vir2ue. All right, yeah, just sounded good. Here we are.
So soon says he's going to beat battle for the name.
Here we go.
Here we go. So what element?
God's in here. But yeah. So I like the. Thank you, Vegan Christian. Yeah, I like that I kept the same name too. I definitely didn't want to give it up, because at that point, at least amongst my friends and peers that knew I was into production, that's all they knew me as in that realm. I mean, I have 1,000 other different nicknames in my personal life, but Vir2ue was the name I went by, and I was not going to relinquish and start all over with a brand new name, because branding is hard enough as it is, and completely changing my name would have been probably rough for me. So
Yeah, trust me, I know. Trust me, I know.
yeah.
What element of hip hop caught your attention first?
The beatboxing. So Fat Boys.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Rest in peace. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. The one that just died recently. I'm so sorry. Dimes, if you're in here, you probably know. But yeah, Fat Boys. They had this movie where they were. Do you guys remember this? It was the Fat Boys. They played orderlies, and for an old white guy, and yeah, that's how I actually fell in love with beatboxing, because in this movie they were actors. They played orderlies for this rich old white guy, and they took care of him, and they were trying to basically like scam him into getting money. I forget what it was called, but anyway, they ended up, the old guy ended up leaving them money. They became rich or whatever, but. It was funny as hell. It was like the Three Stooges, but they beatboxed the whole movie, and I just loved the hubba hubba. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole element of beatboxing was just cool, because I could do it and I could make an instrument and make a sound by myself with my mouth, and that's what led to the ciphers that I was involved in, and then eventually me rhyming, and then eventually me making beats, because. Most people can't beatbox. They try, and it doesn't work out very well. So what would happen?
Most people can't even whistle.
True. So this is what would happen. I surrounded myself with a lot of people that loved rap and loved to freestyle. But again, showing my age, this was early 90s, right? There was no iPods. We had boom boxes, but we barely had CDs, okay? We still had cassettes most of the time. So if you wanted music on demand, here I am. You kick a beat, right? So just like, banging on the lunch table or kick a beatbox. And I got nice with doing hip hop beats, beatboxing, where it would sound dope, right? So I would be the beatboxer, and then anybody that could rap or freestyle or battle would rap and battle to me beatboxing. So I didn't really perfect my craft at rhyming at all for a very long time, because I was the beatboxer and there was nobody else to beatbox. Right? And if there was no one was walking around with the old Radio Raheem radio, there wasn't going to be any music. So it's not like how it is nowadays where you have a battle and they do it all a cappella and all that. We would have like full ciphers where I would kick a beat and you'd have somebody from Queens, somebody from the Bronx, somebody, and they would just go in and I would switch up the beat. I'd go to a reggae beat, then I'd, go faster and then slower and, like sound effects, like put on a show. You know what I'm saying? So that was really the first element for me because I could control that. I could on demand just kick a beat. And if you could rap, we're putting on a show. In fact, in college, one of my roommates and good friend of mine, have you ever seen Sunday's Best on B.E.T? The gospel
How long?
show?
I think I may have came across him when I was younger, but I don't.
He took second place a couple of years back. But anyway, he's an actor now too. His name is Jeff Spain. He's an awesome dude. But he was my roommate freshman year, and he has an amazing voice. He actually has one album out and he's working on another. But anyway, we used to go to open mics in college, and I would beatbox, and then he would sing like Montel Jordan or Tyrese or something like that, and I would just beatbox, and he would just sing over me beatboxing because we didn't have the instrumental. We couldn't just pull it up on Spotify. So we would do open mics like every Thursday, and we would go down, and I would beatbox, and he would sing over it, and we would basically put on a show with me beatboxing. So it was pretty cool. So that was really like my thing. Like I was the beatboxer. That's what I did. If you needed a beat, Bebop got you. You know what I'm saying? At the time, my nickname was Pooh. So Pooh, kick a beat, I kick a beat, and there you go.
Well, in your
I went off on a
archives,
tangent, but
no, it's no problem. In your archives, somewhere in the area of the records that you had, do you have a video of you beatboxing?
That is a question. Hey, Tony, you in here. Do you have any footage of me beatboxing? All right, so let's just dive in here. Tony INT10. Tony INT10, he's one of my best friends in college. We were from the first week until now been the best of friends, and we actually just released the track with So Soon a few days ago. So we were thick as thieves. So anything that involved hip hop, he was there for. We literally freestyled every single day. We'd smoke, and we'd freestyle and listen to whatever new album came out. And we lived and breathed hip hop for 5 years in college. Yes, 5, not 4. 5 years in college. We lived it and breathed it every single day. So if there is any footage of it, Tony would have it. Yeah, he said he's got a bag of tape. So we had a radio show for a little while we were in college as well, which we did a lot of. I guess the statute of limitations is over now, but we were under the influence on quite a few different magic things while we performed our radio show, and had some very memorable moments playing hip hop the way we wanted to, because no one else was in the studio. So it was cool because we would invite people up there to freestyle. And one time we brought up this guy named Anthony, and he actually had, I believe, muscular dystrophy, and he was bound to a wheelchair, and they didn't have wheelchair access to the radio studio. So we actually went out and lifted him up, because he was always talking about, yo, I can kick around. And we were like, yeah. Not because he was in a wheelchair, but everybody says that, right? And one day he just rolled up on us, like literally rolled up on us, and was like, yo, let me come and spit something on the show. And sure enough, we're like, all right. So we lift up the wheelchair, and he had, the electric one, that you go around, one of them joints. And we go to the studio, and we let him kick, and he had the time of his life. It was dope. And Tony, he still has all the tapes from those radio shows, but we used to basically just get drunk and high and take mushrooms and just play our favorite hip hop songs. And I'm just keeping it real. I mean, it was college, but it expanded our brain a lot musically, and we just love hip hop, man. I know it sounds corny to say it, but we just breathed and lived it every day. We did it every Friday during the summertime when school wasn't in session. We drove to back to school during college, then the summertime just to do our show on Friday nights, and then drove back home.
Mm.
Because we both lived like 30 minutes from where we went to school, went to college. So yeah,
What did you
that's
go
how
to
much
school for?
that's how much we loved it. That's how much we loved what we did. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't have to do it. There was nobody on campus, but the campus radio station also broadcast locally. So people in Queens got it, Rosdale, like a bunch of different neighboring towns got the radio station, not just people on college campus. So people heard us. And you know, we'd get call-ins and like, yo, we really appreciate you playing that real hip hop. Thank you, man, appreciate it. So
What did you go to school for, if you don't mind me asking? And before, oh,
ah
go ahead. Tell me.
nah, was somebody else saying something?
No. We can
Oh,
continue.
yeah, so what I went to school for, so all right, so originally I went to college. My plan was to be a history teacher. Okay? And then I took my first history course. Not for
That quickly
me.
went down the drain.
Yeah. So then I'm like, all right. And this was after I'd taken probably 3 different like prerequisite teaching courses, kind of like general ones that don't mean
Hmm.
dick unless you're actually going to become a teacher. So now I'm like, what am I going to do? So when I was choosing my classes, one of the electives was radio and broadcasting. And it had never crossed my mind that you could get a degree in it or even learn about it in college. Like in my head, you know, as simple as it may sound, it's like, you know, all right, you go to be a teacher or learn English or like I didn't have the aspirations to want to learn anything other than school, right? I didn't realize that I could learn something that I actually enjoy and then apply it to my real life. So literally the first 30 seconds, you know, when they go over the syllabus, you sit down and the teacher says, okay, this is what's going to
Yes.
happen. This is what you're going to have a midterm, you're going to this. And I'm reading it and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. Like literally at that moment, everything changed. I said, whatever this is, I want this. And it was my first radio and broadcasting class. It also helped that the teacher assistant was smoking high, but Tony can attest to this. But literally learning about that, my girl's looking at me crazy right now. I knew if I can learn about something that I actually cared and enjoyed about, it would change everything. So that's when I became a broadcasting major. And learned all about radio, film, TV, you know, how to shoot a commercial, how to shoot film, music, how to learn Adobe Premiere, how to cut together a promo, just a lot of cool stuff. And from that point on, I was like, I want to be in the entertainment field. Okay, medium. All right. I don't want to say, oh, I knew I wanted to be an entertainer. No, I just wanted to be a part of I wanted to be a cog in the wheel, right? I wanted to be a part of all of that somehow, some way. Behind the scenes, you know, the guy pushing the buttons or maybe operating the camera or doing the lighting. Like I was saying, I don't have to be the chief, but I don't want to be just the Indian. I want to be the guy that's in there in the mix, right? So I went to school and got a degree in broadcasting, major in broadcasting, minor in communications. And that's pretty standard if you get into radio or television or anything like that. That's usually the prerequisite.
I went to college for music production. I then went from music production to sound production for movies and film.
Okay.
And I fell in love with the Adobe suite, actually doing special effects, doing color grading for film, narration alongside of scores for commercials and behind people's interviews that I do here on HVMAN. So I thought that was, you know, it was a great experience to show me that no matter what I put my mind to, I could push the bounds of, right? No matter what I do create on the creative scale, I could actually perfect if I just put my mind to it and not lock myself in a box. But before I continue going on with this interview, I see that we are having a request, a strong request that has been going on for quite some time. For those of you who will be hearing this in the audio version, we are doing this on IG Live. And right now in the comments, they would like for King Vir2ue to beatbox now. It's funny how they
God.
came up with the acronym for that. The BBN is pretty interesting. So without further ado, if you could beatbox for us, just a small sample, that would be great.
Man, even my girl got me out. My girl out here, she throwing me under the bus. It's not gonna be good, but I will attempt to beatbox. I'm a little rusty, so please don't judge me. Although I know you will.
I would. I would.
All right.
The rhythm. Ooh. Oh wow. Ooh, nice, nice. Everyone in the comment section who's
That was
hearing
terrible,
or
but I'm
listening
telling
to
you,
this
at
interview,
one point I was good.
there we go.
I was rusty.
No, but the fact that you was willing to do it, everybody was everybody was requesting it, and you gave it to them. You know, that was great. Thank
Yes.
you. I
Yeah, no
appreciate
problem.
you.
Yeah, but like I it's just like anything, right? So I was doing that every day, so I could just kick it quickly, and then like I would do the like I was really into the whole sound effect aspect of it, like using my voice as an instrument. And then same thing with freestyling. So once me and Tony started freestyling, we would just freestyle and smoke all day, every day, and listen to Mos Def and Tyler Kweli and
Mm,
just
love
rap.
Quali
I
Quali.
mean, and the more we rap, the better we got. And Tony was always better than me, especially off the top. I think at one point I felt like I was probably maybe a better writer, but he always would go off the dome and smoke me in every single freestyle ever. And I think I had maybe the punchlines were a little bit stronger with me, but his off the top rhymes. I mean, now he's definitely. I'm fully retired. But with me and him, we kept our swords sharpened by going back and forth every single day, and we entered into beat battles. And one time I took first, he took second, and he was mad because I spit a written and he went off the top. So I know he never forgave me for that. I still love you, Don. I said, but yeah, that was the one that I actually got a chance to meet the Beat Nuts. That battle.
Nice, nice. How was
Yeah.
that experience? Please tell
So,
us.
it was weird. So, the prize for that rap battle was you got to meet the Beat Nuts, and I was also a huge Beat Nuts fan because I loved their production, which was really dope at the time. Particularly Psycho S, Psycho S and Juju, they both produced, but Psycho S. They showed up super late and drunk, so that was not cool. So I just kind of like had to stand around and wait for them. But it was cool meeting them and just kind of being like, oh, all right, you guys are the Beat Nuts. And they just look like regular dudes. So it was kind of inspiring because it was just like, not on some cocky, arrogant, like, I can do what you do type shit, but I looked at them like, you're just regular dudes right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't, like, starstruck or, like, even though I was musically, I was just a huge fan. And, of course, they had a song with Big Pun and everything. But I just kind of, it was cool because it humanized them and humanized me to the point where I'm like, oh. Like, I was taller than them and, like, one of them looked like he got hit by a bus. Like, he wasn't that, good looking of a guy. I'm like, yo, they're just regular dudes, man. These guys just rap and make beats. You know what I'm saying? It kind of just put a battery in my back that, like, not anybody can do it, but I'm like, yo, they're just regular dudes that happen to rap and make money from it. So it was kind of cool. Like the whole like stardom thing was not a thing once I saw them right next to me, and I was just like, oh, you're just two dudes. So yeah.
Yeah, some people are very easy to relate to. Not everybody,
Yeah, they
comes
were cool.
across
They
as
were
this
kind of
big
a dick.
star.
They were kind of shitty.
It's good.
They were like complaining about the food that was bought for them. You know what I mean? Like they were. I don't want to shit on them, but they didn't have a good attitude. They came there late. They kind of were like, hey, what's up? Oh, you won the battle? Cool. Like they didn't like try to build with me or like, you know what I'm saying? They just kind of they got paid to show up. The college, that threw the battle. They have like those little budgets. They paid whatever to get them to come out there for the prize or whatever out of their little budget. So they weren't very excited to meet me. So I was just kind of like, all right, whatever. But it was cool. I
Well,
met the Peanuts.
at least you was able to get the experience.
Now
That
there
is
is
true.
a tape of that battle that does exist. I don't have it anymore.
Oh.
Don, I don't know if you do, but a friend of ours did have a copy. It is out there somewhere in the ether. So if anyone can find it, feel free. I did have a very interesting moment during that battle, which was pretty cool. And I know we're not even talking about production, but from a rhyming standpoint, so I won the battle. I beat Tony Dimes. I love you, Dimes, but all right, I beat Tony Dimes with a written, but he was freestyle, so he technically should have won. But I digress. So now this dude starts heckling me from the crowd, right? Like really heckling me, like, yo, you suck, man, blah blah blah, like really calling me out, like on some like, yo, you're trash type shit, right? I'm like, yo, come up. You know what I'm saying? You want the smoke too? Let's go. So he comes up and he starts spitting this like really bad rapping. I mean, like, I'm not even gonna say a rapper's name, but it just wasn't good, right? And he thought he was really in his bag too, like going off of me, like da da da. And I literally shut the whole thing down. Dons will tell you, Tony will tell you that I said this one line, and now mind you, this is fresh off of Mr. Kelly's allegations, okay? So just keep this bar in mind. I said, he came up, he said all that. I said, man, you call that shit rhyming? That's just a disgrace. I'm going to do your R. Kelly style and piss in your face. And the whole place went crazy. I mean, like the tape had dropped like 2 days before. Like, I mean, it was fresh in the barbershops. Like, for those of you that were there back then, when the first R. Kelly thing happened, 20 years or whatever, like that. So that line it hit. You know what I'm saying? Because like it was fresh, and the whole place went crazy, and so that was a cool moment because I could have gotten ate up. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? This dude, he might have came up and been nice and ate me alive, and I just won the battle. Like I'm the king of the shit. But then he started spitting that bullshit, and I came up with that line and shut him down. So that was cool as well. So.
I used to battle rap myself. I used to battle rap myself. Yeah, actually, because I was a lyricist and I was really good at writing and pretty adept at freestyling, I used to battle myself. So I'll give you a little small sample if I can remember one of these writtens that I used to produce. The similarities in all my casualties is that they all met death to different realities, and I can only surrender to my true mentality and protect myself from those who want to battle me. Now my swag is official to match my aura. Pheromones Mystic Cologne from Sephora, right? So that was one.
Okay.
That's one. That's one. It's just to show a little something without using any curse words or anything. And I was like, if there's a wish you should grant me, you should grant me the wish of relaxing in the Grand Sea next to black sand beaches in a place where satellites can't reach us. I could hold seminars that can outdo preachers, put same to professors and teachers, monopolize business until I'm a tycoon. UAV baby, but I'm a typhoon. Tap that heat, give you a sunstroke, and death could reach you right through gunsmoke. So
look at you showing off there, your little flex in there, right?
just a little bit. I thought, why not enliven this interview with a proper exchange, especially because it's what I used to do.
Bars, okay.
And I no longer go ahead and do that anymore as of now. But continuing.
But it's all part of it, and I'm glad that we touched on all that because it led me to where I am today, right? So if I didn't do the beatboxing, I didn't listen to the jazz records, I didn't do the battle rapping, I would never try to battle rap somebody now. there's a few people in here that would eat me alive in the first 5 minutes. Like, I wouldn't even last. It would be bad. But at one point, and I hate to make this a regional thing, but during this time period, what people don't understand is battle rapping is not what it is today, okay? This was back when Big Pun would go to whoever the nicest was in that era, in that borough, and go to that block and battle them. I did that many times. I got eaten alive by this dude named Diabolical. I don't know if you ever heard of him before. Don's can attest to this as well. This white guy named Diabolical, he rose to the Mortal Technique. And there was a mutual friend of ours, and I would be just eating dudes up alive, battling or freestyling locally, okay? Like, just around with friends and stuff like that. I was not, like, the guy. And my guy, Nerd, we called him Old Nerdy Bastard. Anyway, yeah. He kept telling me, he's like, man, I got this dude named Diabolical, man. Yo, he'll tear you up, yo. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Because at that point, I was good. I was good. I thought I was good. And one night, we were at a rave, and Nice and Smooth had performed, and we actually had gotten VIP tickets or whatever. And I'm chilling up in VIP, and I'm just about to hit my peak. I'll let you figure out what I mean by that. And I get a tap on my shoulder, and I turn over. Here's Old Nerdy Bastard with this tall white dude, and he's like, yo, this is my man Diabolical I've been telling you about. And before I can even say a word, he goes crazy on me. When I say, like, he's like, it was like he was shooting me alive, like, with his words. He was just like, da 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 da, ba 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 ba. And I'm just like looking at him while under the influence, right? And I'm just like, I didn't even attempt to respond. I leaned in, gave him a pound, and said, yo, nerd, you was right. Have a good night, buddy. And kept it pushing. I didn't even try to run back. It was that crazy. He destroyed me. Destroyed me. It made me want to stop rhyming. It was that bad. Because when something like that happens, it goes one of two ways. Either you're like, I got to get better. Or you're like, man, I need to quit because I'm not that good. That was one of those moments where I was like, I thought I was good. Nah, that dude was good. He was serious. He destroyed me. And it was so good, I had to give him his props. Like, I wasn't even mad. I was just like, bro, you're amazing. Like, I hope you make it.
Bro, you're amazing.
Yeah. Like, I was in awe. I was just like, thank you for destroying me. That was a beautiful experience. You were that good. And I hope you blow up one day because I can say that guy beat me in a battle. It wasn't even a battle, but yeah, he rapped at me.
He rapped at me.
Yeah, he rapped at me, yeah. All right, Vegan Christian has to go. Well, it's nice seeing you, Vegan Christian.
Nice seeing you.
Christian, thank
This is
you
a
for
great
popping in.
interview so far.
Yes,
I wanted to jump in more to how did you land your first job in the entertainment industry?
Yes. Pardon me while I vape. So, went to school for broadcasting. My senior year, I interned for MTV News and Docs. All right, 3 days a week. Me and Tony Heinze. I know I keep bringing him up a lot, but he was my partner in crime in college. So on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I did it 2 years in a row because I was at TRL my last year. So the year before that was News and Docs. So that was on, Tuesday and Thursdays. So all day, and I got credit for it. I interned. I got coffee, donuts, blankets, moved tapes from here to there, all in the city, bring it from this studio to that studio, just kind of learning the game or whatever. But while doing that and getting college credits, I was building and making connections, right? So everybody in that field starts out as an intern where you work for free. And then the next progression is you get a paying job, which is production assistant. Then the next step from a production assistant is associate producer, which essentially is an assistant producer. And then it goes to, it's kind of like a 3-tier. They're somewhat even depending on what you look at it. You go segment producer, writer, producer, line producer. So depending on what type of programming you're on, they could all be equal. Producer tends to be a little bit higher than just a segment producer, because the segment producer just does a segment of the show. Producer oversees the production, and then of course the executive producer oversees the whole nine. They're usually just the bank. They don't really do much in terms of the creation of the show. So what I did was I networked
Thank you for that.
I networked like crazy when I was at MTV. So when I interned for actually TRL, those of you that remember Total Request Live, with Carson Daly and Lala and all them back then, there was 55 interns that were there, and only 2 people were going to be chosen to go to spring break that year. Me and one other person out of the 55 were chosen. So I paid my own plane ticket to go to work for free. But that was all because of the hustle, right? So I'm like, I get to go to spring break. Now they put me up, they fed me, and they put me in a hotel, but I had to buy my own plane ticket. I was like, it's worth it to me, because if you're telling me out of 2 out of 55, you're choosing me to go, this is going to be beneficial to my career, right, in the future. I don't want to pass up this opportunity. So I'm running around crazy. Pauly Shore was there. I'm getting people water. I'm doing this and doing that. But I'm in South Beach, having a blast, not getting paid, but still being part of spring break, which was a very big deal back then.
Yes, it was.
So that's where I kind of first got the, I guess, the realization or the power of networking and putting yourself out there and separating yourself from everybody else. Because like I said, there was 55 other interns that they could have chosen. But I would do things to try to separate myself, to let them know, one, how hungry I was to get a job when I graduated. But 2, that I also was not in it for the fame. Because there was a lot of fanboys, fangirls that were there that just wanted to meet celebrities. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just wanted to be a part of that world because they want, like, the clout. I wanted to be a part of that world because I wanted to be a part of that world, not to get close to an artist or, you know, blow up to be a rapper or anything like that. I just wanted to be a part of that machine. So that led me to figuring out how to network. And I was fortunate enough, I graduated on a Sunday. I walked on a Sunday, and the next day I started my first job in television, the day after I graduated, which was ironically MTV's first foray into the battle scene, and it was called MTV MC Battle. And the job was only for 1 week. The 3 judges were Kanye West, Just Blaze, and Lenny S. So it was all Rockefeller. Now this is a very, very, very early on Kanye, way before anything. You know, he was still just a producer. And I still actually have the hat. I still have the hat in my closet. I probably could get it, but where it says MTV Battle and then it says like staff on the back. So I still have some mementos from that. But that was my very first paying gig, but it was only for a week, and then I had to find another job. But that was my first job in television. And because it was part of Viacom, what a lot of people don't know is Viacom owns like everything. So CBS, Viacom, B.E.T, VH1, MTV, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, like all your favorites, they all fall underneath that umbrella. Most of them do. So the cool thing is that once I got hired in Viacom under MTV, even though it was that week, everyone kind of shuffles from show to show because you're all part of the same umbrella, right? So you might have somebody that works at MTV but then gets a job at Nickelodeon, and it's just kind of like transferring within the company. Even though it's a different quote-unquote network, it's still all Viacom. So that's basically my TV career, was going from MTV to VH1. Then I had a small stint in Sony Television. Then I went back to BET, and that's where I ended my television production career, was actually at BET. But it was still all under Viacom the entire time.
What what are the differences you noticed between VH1, MTV, and BET? If there was anything significant that stood out to you?
Ah, man. This is a tough question because it's man. All right, it's politically incorrect in a lot of ways, so I'm going to make it as politically correct as possible.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll put it to you like this:
Mm-hmm.
if you think about VH1 and you think about MTV and you think about BT and you think about how things are run behind the scenes, stereotypically, if you were to just guess, you have an idea in your head, right? It's
Maybe a slight idea.
It's exactly what you think it is. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
All right.
You know what? And we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is gonna be the first question that we will leave up for interpretation for our audience to fill in the blank.
And I'm
100%.
saying that not because I don't want to answer it, but because I don't want that my experience at all three were fantastic. But a lot of the, pardon my French, fuckery that happened at BT was very much a very severe and bad case of nepotism, but not in the positive way. So I believe in nepotism when you can back it up with talent and hard work, not when you're just my friend.
And real quick, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and I want you to give the audience a clear definition of what nepotism is for those who don't know.
So nepotism is essentially, I mean, there's a specific definition, but nepotism is basically looking out for somebody that is either a relative or a friend or someone that you know because they're your equals. So you put them onto a job, right? So we've all done it, right? You have a friend, a cousin, you know, hey, they're hiring over here. You know, I'll plug you up with the person that's hiring. You know, make sure your resume looks good. I'll put in a good word for you. Nepotism, more specifically, is really giving a job to somebody or giving someone an opportunity based solely on their connection to you via relationship, blood, friendship, whatever it is, where you're giving them a leg up just because they're your cousin, they're your friend, they're your girlfriend, they're your whatever. And that's okay because it served a lot of communities, and we all have benefited one way or another, whether we realize it or not. The problem is when my issue is it goes back to the whole chance favors a prepared mind, right? I'm all for nepotism. Let's look out for our own. But if you come to me and say, yo, give me a job at BET, and then I say, well, where'd you go to college? And then you're like, I didn't go to college. I say, why are you asking me to get you a job at BET? Like, because I work there and we're friends? You need to have a degree, man. Like, what? No, I can't just get you a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, but there was a lot of that happening, particularly in that area. And it was really frustrating because I'm like, this person has no idea what they're doing. And they were hired because they're friends with this person. They have no formal training, don't know how to edit, don't know lighting. I mean, if K-Banger was in here, he could attest to it. I mean, at some points, it was atrocious. And it was really hard. It was really disheartening to see because BET and still is the #1 station for people of color in entertainment. So to see the behind the scenes and be a part of it, how it was run and how much money was wasted and how much better it could have been. This is back in the BET Uncut days. I don't know if you remember those. Remember?
Yeah, I remember those.
Nelly, yeah.
I remember those. I remember those days.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
But yeah, it just bothered me because I was like, you know, because I worked there last and I started at MTV, then VH1, and I saw how they ran their shit, and then I saw how BT ran his shit. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm talking down about it because it was a great experience, but it was just like the nepotism was bad. Yeah, it has nothing to do with color. It was the nepotism. It was I saw too many like cousins and friends that were getting jobs with no talent involved, and then ruining productions of shows because they didn't know what they were doing. I'm like, this is a
Mm,
major network. This is BET, Black Entertainment Television. Like, this is a big deal. You should know what you're doing. And a lot of people didn't. A
mm,
lot of people.
mm.
So yeah,
Sorry. Wow.
yeah.
I'm not surprised though. I'm not
Yeah,
surprised at all.
it was
I'm
it
not
was bad.
surprised.
It was really bad, and it didn't need to be. It didn't need to
Yeah, people like to call in favors, man, but favors don't always get the job done, right?
be.
So,
Facts. Yep.
and this is true. Who was someone you met that left an impact on you in the entertainment industry?
Ah, that's a very good question. So one of my favorite stories, um, of a person I met is Elijah Wood. You know who Elijah Wood is? The guy from
The
Lord of the
actor?
Rings. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the actor, yes. I'm very Frodo.
Frodo.
Hmm.
Right.
Very familiar with him.
Also in The Good Son, very underrated movie with Macaulay Culkin. Remember that?
I have to check that movie out. Check that movie out.
Um, So this was when I was interning at MTV TRL, and
Hmm.
my shift was 10 to 6. So after TRL, which was at 5, they would do the MTV News. And I don't know if you remember, but back then, so there was Carson Daly, there was Lala, then there was this white boy that had like, he was a chubby white dude and he had tattoos all over his head and hands. I forget what his name was, but he was like one of the main, like the other guy. There was like 3 of them, and then Sway, of course, right? So
Hmm.
those like the 3 main like MTV News. Hey, this is what's going on in hip hop. This is what's going on in rock and roll, whatever, whatever, right? Yes, he was in Grease Street Hooligans, one of my favorite movies, by the way. Yes, that is a very underrated movie. Anyone go watch that if you haven't. Grease Street Hooligans is in my top 5 of all time, and he is amazing in that. So anyway, I'm sitting in the control room, basically waiting to go home because TRL is over, and they're about to do MTV News. So I'm sitting in the control room where they, they cut, scene, the whole 9, right? And I'm just sitting there, minding my own business, and then in walks Elijah Wood. And I look over. Now at this point, I had seen probably over 100 celebrities because most of the time there would be more than one guest on TRL, and there'd be people coming in and out of the office all the time. So the first thing they tell you as an intern is you cannot fanboy or fangirl out. You can't ask for autographs. You can't say I'm a big fan. Like
Hmm.
while they're here, they're working and you're working. Like you can't even say, "Hey, I'm a big fan of yours." Like don't do it. You're here. You're an employee. Okay, like you're not. I don't care, Madonna, whoever it is, your biggest celebrity crush, it does not matter. You
Hmm.
treat them like they're working, and they will treat you like you're working in a respectful manner, of course. But don't be, oh my God, don't even acknowledge them unless they acknowledge you type situation, right? So I
Hmm.
did just that. I'm out of my bed. I look over, I see who it is. I'm like, oh shit, that's Frodo. All right, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then he sits right next to me. He's like, "What's up, man?" He said it just like that. "What's up, man?" I was like, "What's up?" So I look over at him. He's looking at me. Now here's the moment where normally in his life, right? Normally, yo, man, you were amazing. Lord of the Rings was like just came out. Like he was like the hottest shit ever. Like, that's when people fan. Yo, man, I really loved you in such and such movie, whatever. I didn't do that. He said, "What's up, man?" I said,
Mm.
"What's up?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm here to see." I forget the guy's name. I want to say it was like Zach or something like that. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, me and Zach go way back. We're going out to eat when he's done with the show." I'm like, "That's cool." So I basically was acting unimpressed, not trying to be too cool for school, but like I was also trying to not get in trouble. But then I noticed that he kind of was like, I know he knows who I am. Why ain't he like being extra nice to me? You know what I'm saying? Like not on some like goofy type thing, but he was kind of like, oh, all right, he's playing it cool. So he pulls out this big block white block that has 4 circles on it. And so I asked him, like, what is that? He's like, this is an iPod. I'm like, what's an iPod? Yeah, he's like, yeah, it can hold like 300 songs. Like, this was like the first one that was like a brick. Like, literally, like.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Right?
I remember that one.
Before
Yes,
the shuffles, before it had 4 circles on it. People that remember this know what I'm talking about. And they lit up red. And they barely held 500 songs. I mean, this is the first. And he's rich, obviously, so he has it before anybody, right? There wasn't even MP3 players, let alone iPod. So he pulls it out. I'm like, what's that? He's like, yo, it's an iPod. I'm like, what is an iPod? He's like, it's an MP3 player. I'm like, what's an MP3 player? He's like, well, and he explains it to me. And he's like, do you like hip-hop? Elijah was asking me, do I like hip-hop? I'm like, yeah. He's like, listen to this. Gives me one of his headphones and proceeds to play me some Roots. So now he's playing me like for like 20 minutes, like the realest hip hop shit I've ever heard. Elijah Wood is putting me on the music that I hadn't heard yet. And I'm priding myself, right? I'm like Backpacker, Underground. He's got some unreleased shit that maybe Questlove sent him that I don't know about. Because he's playing me some shit I'd never even heard of. And I'm like, this is crazy. And he's like, it's all hip hop. He's got Wu-Tang in there. And he's just vibing out. He's like, yo, it's dope, right? I'm like, yeah. What's really dope is that you're Elijah Wood and you're putting me on to real hip hop. What is happening right now? You know what I'm saying? In my mind, I'm like, this is crazy. So he played me a bunch of joints, chilled for like 45 minutes. We just talked about bullshit. Like, I never brought up the fact that he was like the biggest actor in the world at the time. We just talked. We talked about hip hop performance. I was like, yeah, Black Thought, and he was talking about Black Thought and Mos Def and blah blah blah. And then his boy finished the news, and he came in and gave him a pound, and he leaned in and gave me a pound and said, "Yo, it was nice meeting you," and he left. But I spent 45 minutes talking hip hop to Elijah Wood, and never once brought up Lord of the Rings or his acting career. Like, I just talked to him like a human being. And I think that's what resonated. That's why that conversation happened, because I think he was so used to, particularly like literally at this moment, like Lord of the Rings was like in the trilogy. I don't know which one it was, but it was like he was like the most recognizable white person on earth. You know, you remember how big Lord of the Rings was? It was, broke every box office. And I didn't fan out. I just like I know he knew. Obviously. But I just talked to him like a regular dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think it seemed like he found comfort in that. You know what I'm saying? He was probably just used to people like, I take a picture and da-da-da-da, and you were amazing this and that. And I just talked to him. And he just respected me and gave me a pound and went on his way. But that's the first time I ever saw an iPod, and it was like 2 years until I saw one after that. So he definitely he knew Steve Jobs or something, because I never saw an iPod again for about 2 years later. Now, it might have been the damn prototype, because the one I saw after that didn't look like the one he had. Because that one had like a wheel on it, and it had like you could like click around it. Anyway.
Yep, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just talking about that the other day on the bus ride.
Yeah, that was the next one I saw, but he had some other shit.
Let me ask you another question. What are some of the dangers that you encountered working in that field of production? You know, working in the field of TV production in particular. In terms of like intellectual property, maybe becoming an issue, with sharing ideas, maybe them not, paying you enough for it, or maybe if something of that nature.
Yeah.
What is something that you kind of stumbled
I thought you meant
into?
like,
You were like
actual danger.
Oh no, business, danger within
there
the
was
business.
that too, but
He said actual danger.
yeah, like actual danger. Yeah, so that is very prominent, and still to this day is. So intellectual property is a very touchy subject, because the problem is when you have a good idea, you want to share it with people, right? One, because you want to know if it's good. Even if in your mind you know it's good, you still need to like bounce it off somebody. Be like, is this really that good? Am I tripping, or is that really a good idea? But then you realize when you tell that person, they now know what your idea is. And now they may be like, nah, it's not really that good. And then they take it and then they put their version of it. All right. And then they come out with something else that's very similar to what you came out with. And they said, oh, no, well, mine's different. Mine is red. Yours was blue. And it happens all the time. And I saw it happen a few times in television where ideas were flat out stolen. Right from friends of mine that came up with ideas, and they would go to their producer. And the problem with that is they technically weren't stolen, because what most people don't realize is when you sign the contract, those ideas that you come up with while working for those companies, they technically own them. It's the fine print that most people don't know. So you might come up with an idea for a show, and ideally they pick it up and you get paid and compensated for it, right? That's the ideal scenario. But most likely and more likely what ends up happening is you sit down and you pitch an idea to Stephen Hill. He says, nah, I don't think that's really that good. And then a year later it comes out being called something else with a different host and a different writing. So if I sound like I'm bitter, I think you know where I'm going with this. And I saw it happen a few times.
I get you.
So it sucks, but it's such a common thing that you got to be around people that you really trust. And even then, right, you don't know if you can trust them. But people are grimy, man. They're hungry for fame. They hear a good idea and they figure they can capitalize off of it, especially if they're in a position of power or position that they can actually talk to the person that can make it happen. And I've seen people just get robbed blind. And then you just got to keep it moving, because if you dwell on it and wonder what could have been, or that was my idea, or that was my show, or that's so much like what I came up with, and now they're doing it, I would never sleep. You know what I mean? There were just so many ideas, so many things that are passed around in meetings and tossed around that are shut down at the moment and magically appear later. And the big names take credit for, oh, yeah, the creator of this and creator of that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You didn't create it. You put your name on it and said that you made it. But I digress. So that's the danger, yes. So all of you creators out there, hold on to your intellectual property the best you can, but you do need a team. And as long as you're surrounded by people you truly can trust, like actually trust. And then even then, make them sign the contract. Then,
you still have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You still have to protect yourself.
Even, that's the best thing I could say, is to try to surround yourself around good intentioned people, because you will get got. Everyone at some point gets got by somebody that unfortunately is in a position. Dave Chappelle has a great bit about being big-footed by this one dude one time. You should look it up, but it's a pretty incredible story. But we all get got at some point. But it's a learning lesson. It's how you come back from that. Do you take it and say, all right, I take it on the chin and I keep it moving? Or do you learn from that and you try to put yourself in a position where not only you can use nepotism for yourself, but use nepotism for somebody else in a positive way, okay? To help somebody that is talented, that can do the work, that deserves a shot, and you're in a position to give them that shot, and that they're going to do nothing but be successful. That's the best thing that you can do. Pay it forward.
That was so deep. I like the way that you brought it back. That's why I took a slight time to reflect, because we talked about nepotism earlier in the interview, and the way that you just brought that back full circle was great. It's a great message that I think people need to hear, because oftentimes we're so busy trying to further ourselves, especially within a country that deals with hyper individualism. What am I going to do for me? How am I going to make sure that I'm okay? And I'm not knocking anybody. I do understand that we have to take care of ourselves to then be able to help other people, but simultaneously, I think helping other people is also important, because it builds more of a community of trust with a stronger foundation, where if I help you, maybe one day you can help me. And even if you can't help me, at least, like you said before, I paid it forward, so
Yeah,
Without further ado.
I'm a big believer in that. I think, you know, I'm a big believer in karma, and I do believe that a lot of times, if you help somebody on the way up, just out of the goodness of your heart, if they do get there, they'll reach back for you. If you did it in a genuine way, not as an opportunist, but just on some like, I can do it, so I'll do it, and you're a good dude that deserves it. I think it comes back to you, even if it's not from that person. Some way the universe will pay you back. I truly believe
Hmm.
it.
Some way the universe will pay you back. That is
Yeah.
100% true. I believe in that also. I believe in what I like to consider good karma. um, Let me ask you, how did what is how did you get back into producing music? You was a TV producer. Did you produce music at that time? And if you did, how did you get back into it after
Yes.
taking the break?
So I did, and I did it at a very minuscule scale. So the
Hmm.
first piece of hardware that I purchased was a Roland NC909, which is kind of like a Roland SP404 on steroids because it has a groove machine and it's designed to actually be used live. So you could sync it up with like strobe lights and like perform um, live instrumentation, beats, samples, all on this one machine. And I got it because I was a fan of Roland, and I had read somewhere that RZA was a big fan of Roland, and I
Hmm.
couldn't afford an MPC, so it was a twofold, right? So I was like, I really want to get some hardware, and then I got my first MacBook Pro. I had always made beats on like my Casio and stuff like that, if you even want to call them beats, right? The ding, the ding, the ding, ding, you know, just the little stupid like cha-cha beats, and I'd play a little, you know, little ditty bop to it. That's not a beat, but in my mind, when I'm 10, I'm making something, right? Um, I started making them in 1999.
Okay.
No, I'm lying. That would be 2003. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
2003 when I was I formally started making beats. Between using and sampling my dad's record player, the Roland MC909, and the MacBook Pro. And that's where the So What Now beat originated from.
Mm.
And the sample, which I still will never tell anyone where I got it from, is the most amazing place that I got it from. And I'll tell it one day.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, fuck it, I'll tell you. So
Yeah.
I won't tell you where on the album, but it was one of my dad's records. And I don't know if you guys know this, but they used to release. I don't know if you guys remember this.
Continue talking. I'm gonna use
The
the bathroom. Continue.
the Muppets used to go live every Friday night. Does anybody remember this?
I think so.
Yes.
I
There
think
used
so.
to be a Friday night show. I believe it was Friday, where it was called, if I remember correctly, Muppets Live, and they had like the two old white dudes in the balcony, and you know they're over there frying everybody and throwing tomatoes and all that stuff, and they had Kermit, and then you'd have like celebrities would go on the show and they'd interview them. It was kind of like a variety show.
Mm.
And one of my dad's records was from one of those live shows. So it was literally the Muppets Live. And I've actually used several samples from that album throughout my tenure as a beat maker. One of them is very noticeable because I actually use Kermit the Frog at the beginning of the track I have with Bowler Brown. And it's very clear that it's Kermit at the beginning, and that was from that actual record. So I used it that time, and then that sample and bass line for So What Now actually comes from that album. And if you want, you might be able to find it, but I highly doubt it because it was I just caught it right at the right time with the needle where I was just like, yes. and then I
That's
just
it.
looped it. And that, you know, a big part of sampling is, and that's a major discussion, and that's a whole nother show which we can have because I have a lot to say on it, is finding the right sample. And there's some people that are masters at it. Havoc is one of them. Pete Rock is one of them. Ninth Wonder is one of them. But there's certain Havoc has a way of finding the most obscure part of a song and finding that one little nugget. Like when you hear the song, you're like, and then all of a sudden you hear the, and you're like, oh, he took that one little 3 seconds of this weird part of the song, sped it up, changed the pitch, and added drums to it, and now he's created this monster beat. But you have to hear it first, right? You have to catch it. That's the difference. So when people are sampling, when I'm sampling, I'm always listening differently, right? So I'm listening as a producer. So I might be watching something and I hear this one little violin or this one little drop of a note or something, and then I'll be like, ooh, I like that. So sometimes it's not just as simple as, like, people forget when Kanye first came out, he literally was just taking the chorus of a song and then speeding it up and adding drums to it. Not taking anything away from the genius of Kanye, but he's come a long way. Okay, but I don't know why I got off on a tangent on the sampling, but
I love that you're testing the sampling.
there's an art. There's a very much an art to it, very much so. And anyone that doesn't believe that, to me, is just crazy. There's such an art to sampling and finding the right sample and then composing and putting it together. Sometimes it's just simple, you know, chopping it and throwing some drums on it, throwing a dope bass line and just let it rock. And other times it can get pretty complicated. And sometimes the best beats that have ever been made, people forget that some of the greatest hip hop songs ever made were made on machines that are dumber than your Game Boy. And Game Boys are dumb, right? So think about what we have on our phone. Fuck that. I mean, these floppy disks that would hold 2 megabytes worth of stuff. And now you have flash drives that have 500 gigabytes. You know what I mean? Like, they were able to create with 8-second loops some of the best music we've ever heard in our lives. So when people say you got to have $10,000 worth of equipment, or sampling is cheating, or you have to create things from scratch, what's from scratch? There are no notes created from scratch. Everything has already been done. Every part of hip hop has been sampled, used, abused, reversed, smacked back, up, down, from James Brown, you name it, right? Even the drums. The drums, 90% of the drums that have been used in hip hop have come from James Brown records and breakbeats. So they sampled that, right? And they just put it on a loop and then they rapped over it. So what is the difference at this point, right? When do we say, like, what is the threshold? When do we say it's okay to sample this, but then not sample that? Or it's okay to sample drums, but then not sample drums? Or it's okay to sample vocals, but not, and if you speed them up, then it's okay. Like, who are we to say what good music is good music? At the end of the day, if it's good music to you, do you care how the sausage is made? Like,
most people don't. They just eat it.
The end product is all that matters, right?
This is true.
That's all I can, like, without going down the whole rabbit hole, like with Drake on, nobody cares if he has writers or not. Nobody cares. As long as he doesn't say, I'm top 5 dead or alive, nobody cares. Now, if he starts saying that, a lot of people are going to come for his head. But other than that, nobody cares. Just make good music. R&B people have been doing it for years and no one ever said a word about it. Snoop Dogg didn't write one word to sexual seduction, and it's one of his biggest and best songs he's ever done. Does that take anything away from Snoop being a legend and an MC? No. It's a dope record that some white dude wrote that he sang, and it's dope. End of story. It doesn't discount him as a rapper or make him any less cool. I mean, he made Doggy Style, for Christ's sake. It's a classic album. But Sexual Seduction is a great song. Good music is good music.
I wanted to ask you another question. We're going to get ready to close the interview down there with 20. So I'm gonna ask you this one. Yeah, in your opinion, why is it important for a music producer to be versatile?
So For many reasons. For myself, I like to challenge myself and not be put into a box, because for a while I was, and so soon he will gladly jump in on this. I definitely, all my beats were sounding the same. All of them were very much in the same vein. Where it was, every single one of them was boom bap. Every single one of them was very, very minimal, but not in a good way. And it took a lot for me to grow as a producer and grow out of that. And there was a time where having a signature sound was truly beneficial, i.e. Neptunes, right? Timberland, Swiss Beats, where they literally had a particular sound. Like, Swiss's production is because of what he uses. Even Kanye at some point. RZA, Primo. But the versatility comes in because for me, it expands my musical palette, right? So it allows me to tap into different creative parts of my brain that then benefits when I go back to my first love, which is boom bap, right? When I step out of my comfort zone, well, it is my comfort zone, but when I step out of the boom bap mindset and go into an R&B or a house record or an Afrobeat record, that triggers a different part of my artistic brain that then brings something back to the table when I create a boom bap beat. So I think versatility, like, I don't want people to necessarily, unless they're in my inner circle, immediately know, oh, that's a King Vir2ue beat. I don't want that. I want there to be, as now, if you go and you look up King Vir2ue on Spotify or anything and you listen to all my songs, you're not going to find one that sounds exactly like the one before. And that is entirely intentional. I think versatility is important because you shouldn't be one-dimensional. Now, you should be able to do one thing. What I mean by that is I think I do boom bap very well. But I don't want to be pigeonholed and that's it. I'm going to Vir2ue because I want a boom bap beat and that's it. I want to be able to make other music because I enjoy other music. Now, just because I may be good at making boom bap beats, I know I can make a trap beat, and I know that I can make an R&B beat, and I know that I can make a house beat. I've done two that were really good and very well received. And I enjoy making them. So to me, versatility is important because it's easy to get lazy if you're not versatile, and it's easy to, eventually that sound is going to go away. It'll come back again, but it'll go away, and then people are just going to be like, all right, well, what else you got? Right? If Havoc wasn't able to adapt, if Q-Tip wasn't able to adapt, if even Primo wasn't able to adapt, well, Primo was probably a different story. But even RZA and other people, like the joint that RZA produced on Watch the Throne, the song where they're both talking to their kids, where Jay and Kanye are talking to their kids, that's not a traditional RZA beat. Like, if you're thinking in terms of RZA and Wu-Tang, he went way outside of his box for that. And that's one of my favorite songs on the album. Like, he's grown as a producer. Like, he doesn't just make a Wu-Tang sound. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's grown as a producer. And I think real producers do that. Even when Primo did Christina Aguilera, people forgot that he did that song with her. You remember that?
I actually forgot about that, too.
DJ Premier produced for Christina Aguilera, one of the biggest pop stars in the world. He worked with her, and he produced a song for her. I think a couple, but one of them was actual hit. But anyway, so versatility to me is super important because it allows for myself to tap into those different parts of my brain. But I just want to be able to be like, oh, that's Vir2ue? You know what I'm saying? Like, I want that. I want people to be like, oh, shit, okay. Like that different vibe where it's like, that's Vir2ue. You know, every time they hear a particular sound. I like that versatility. I like people not knowing, oh, shit, that was you? I couldn't tell off rip. It was dope, but I do have somewhat of a formula, so the people really closest to me, they can kind of pick up on it. But I would say to the general listener,
no,
every track is different.
With the interview getting ready to close down, I was wondering, what projects are you working on now, and how are those going?
Oh man, all right, that's a loaded question. So it's a lot. So a shout out to True Words. I don't know if he's still in here, but going back. So it started with my cousin and K Banger around the same time. At this point, is it almost 2 years now? Anyway, coming back into the game started around the same time with both of them. So it originally started with me and K Banger doing an EP together. Me and So Soon, we created Sony Quarantine together. Flash forward, I meet True Words. Well, I DM True Words, and the rest is history. We became friends. I produced for him, so on and so forth. And I was able to figure out his sound and what he's looking for in production. And we make a really good team. So I have a project with Baller Brown that is currently in production and nearing end. We already have 4 songs recorded, which are absolutely incredible. I'm really, really, really proud of them, and I'm proud of her. That EP is coming along great. It's going to be 7 songs, and hopefully turn into a deluxe. I have a EP in the works, but nothing recorded yet with, of course, our favorite friend, So Soon. True Words, I had multiple singles. Originally, we had discussed about doing an EP, and then we decided to release a single, and it did really well. And then we have another single that's coming out on the 15th, which is dope. And we have a bunch of songs like pretty much ready to go. So we could still do an EP because right now I'm kind of in a creative zone where I'm knocking out some pretty dope beats that I'm excited about. And then I have the recent record that I just released with Tony INC or Tony Dimes and So Soon on the hook, called Protect Your Seed, which is an amazing song. And just to give you some backstory on that, I created that beat, and as soon as I heard it, I might have mentioned this before, but the idea behind that song was you do anything to protect your child, okay? Protect your seed. And I had this idea for the song, and I floated it past So Soon. He wasn't really sure. Maybe, I don't know. You know, he's very artistic. You know, he has his moments when he feels something or he doesn't. But it really resonated with Tony INC, my boy, my Robin partner from back in the day, right? And he has never formally recorded a song. And I sent him that beat, and he was like, yo, I want to record this. If I never do anything again, I want to make sure that I record this one song. Because essentially it's a dedication to his daughter. I mean, it gets a little violent in it, but the overall theme is I will do anything to
protect your seed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And that's really the whole thing. So I'm excited, and So Soon killed it on the hook, and you know he helped Dimes navigate recording his first track. So hopefully, I mean, he's just getting his training wheels. No disrespect to him, but because that was his first track, you know, we don't know where we're gonna go with it. We'd like to do an EP, but we're gonna take our time and see what goes with that. And then I have my project, which it's kind of like, you know, the old joke where, you know, Kanye said, I'm gonna, you know, stop keeping all the beats for myself, the good beats for myself. I have multiple singles coming out in the next several weeks, multiple, from a bunch of different artists, from Gons, Joel ID, Baller, K Banger, just a slew of True Words, just a slew of tracks just coming. So every couple weeks, you're gonna hear something from King Vir2ue, produced by, featuring. You will hear something from me, at least once a month until 2022. That
Okay.
without a doubt, at least, if not 2 or 3 songs a month. So I got a lot of things, a lot of projects in the works. I am not working on my own album until 2022. But before that, I'm going to release a house album, a house EP, just for myself. But I've molded over, and I'm probably going to release under DJ King Vir2ue, just to separate myself. And it has to do with algorithms and all that crap. For my hip hop production and then house, because that's a very different lane. But I love it.
Right.
And every time I make a house beat, I mean, you can see it if you watch my IGTV. I'm standing up, I'm like dancing like I'm at some rave. And there's 10,000 people listening to my music. So I have too much fun making it not to. So I decided I'm just going to do an EP of house tracks. Nobody rapping on it, just straight music, EDM, and throw it out there for me, for myself. You know what I'm saying? I want to do that. I can do that. I'm going to have fun doing it. All, of course, while working on different projects and different singles and see what happens from there. But I'm very busy. I have a lot of people that want to work with me. I got some with vocab coming out as well. I mean, I'm probably leaving some other people out, so please don't be mad if I do. But there's a lot of stuff that's in my file folder right now of coming down. I met a dude from Cali that started doing duets. I got like 5 songs with him that he's working on. He's incredible. He's really, really good. He's really talented. Very, very creative. So I got some things in the tuck with him. We'll see what happens with that. Plenty of music is coming. That more on that story.
Sounds like you got your hands loaded.
Yeah.
And leading on to the next question, and then we're going to close this interview out. I only have 2 more questions left. What do you hope your music does for others?
Well, first, I hope it annoys so soon because he's been so damn annoying, this freaking chat. He's such a bad troll. If he was a good troll, it'd be one thing. You're not funny, man. I'm the funny one. Remember? Give it up. But, you said, what was the question? You said, what do I want my music to do?
Yeah, what do you want your music to do for others?
Stand the test of time. And I mean that in the literal sense, and I mean that figuratively. I want, I feel that I'm at a point now, before beggars can't be choosers, right? So before it was, so soon was it, man. That was it. He's the only guy to even consider rapping over my beats. And I've been fortunate enough because of him, and because of some of the success that we had together, and then also him being a conduit for people such as yourself and other people, Baller Brown, and a host of other people. And then there's Banger and 2 Words and a lot of other people. That I'm in a position now where I can really be picky about who I work with. And I say that because I have this conversation with people very often about BeatStars. And I don't know if you're familiar with BeatStars, but essentially that's where a lot of people purchase their production. They pay $35 for a beat. And, Joe Schmo from Idaho made it, and now they bought that beat. I hate that. It drives me crazy. I understand the hustle. I'm not mad at people that buy the beats because I get it. If you can find a dope beat for $35, bro, have that. Like, I can't be mad at that. But I just hate that because there's nothing organic about it, right? If you're just searching on BeatStars for a dope beat and then you find it, you don't even know who that producer is. And I know you can click on the page and see their other stuff. But there's something about working with an artist. So that's why I call myself a producer, not just a beat maker, because a lot of times I do come up with concepts or I do give constructive feedback. Sometimes an artist will just run with the beat. I just like, yo, can I rock to your beat? All right, cool. But I like to have the final say so. At least in terms of if it's going to come out, like over my beat. Like, that's why I have it set up with the whole 50-50 splits, because one, harkening all the way back to P-Rock and CL Smooth, but I don't want to just give my beat to like Little Percocet and be like, and have him just, mumble shit, crap all over it, and for me to make $35. Nah, I value my art too much. Maybe that's just me being snobby, right? I want, when it's all said and done, if you play a King Vir2ue mix, that you're going to hear nothing but fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, All right, King Vir2ue had something to do with this. You're gonna hear so soon. You're gonna hear K Bang. You're gonna hear True Words. You're gonna hear Baller Brown. You're gonna hear Guns. You're gonna hear these people that are true artists, that are true rappers, true spitters, true singers, people that are actually talented. You know what I'm saying? And not, like I said, Little Percocet, that is just da 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 da. I just learned how to
I
rap
don't
yesterday.
subscribe to
I
it
just
too.
learned how to rap yesterday. Like, I'm happy for him, like making money and all that. Like, I'm not hating. I'm not being the old guy hating on young rap, but test of time, right? We all know 90% of mumble rappers will be gone and forgotten. Okay, until mumble rap comes back again 20 years from now or 30 years from now. But it's going away finally, thank God. And real rap is coming back. I hate to sound corny and cliche, but it's true. So the test of time. So quality music, I want to be associated with my name and my music. If you know King Vir2ue is involved, I'm pretty sure it's going to be dope. That's what I want my music to stand for. Not that I sold a beat for $100 to some asshole who can't even rap or sing, so I can make a quick buck. And now my name is out there associated with Little Darvasek.
No, all right. So before we got 5 minutes on the clock, before we end this interview, I have one last question for you, and that is, what does being human mean to you?
I take a deep drag on that one. You said, what is being human, or
what does being human mean to you?
what does being human? I find that as I get older, I'm 41 now. Peace of mind. So, and that's a general statement, but it really does encompass everything if you really think about it, okay? So, if you have peace of mind, everything's okay, right? Like, even though everything's not okay, right, you might be going through something, but if you have the peace of mind to know that tomorrow's another day, or even though you're in pain now, the pain will go away, or even though you're feeling sorrow, you will feel joy again. But to me, having the peace of mind of knowing those things, a peace of mind, that's being human. And then part of that is the whole pay it forward and being kind, the normal things that should come natural to most people. And I do believe hurt people, and that most people, I believe, are inherently good. It's just the experiences that either have happened to them or that they have been through that turn them bad or turn them into bad people or make them choose to do bad actions. But I really do believe that almost everyone is a good person. Some people you joke and say, they're a piece of shit. Are they though? Or maybe they're, their mom beat them with an extension cord for 12 years in a row. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know each other's story. We don't know each other's background. So it's easy to judge via Facebook, Instagram, and everything else. Oh, well, look at this or look at that, not knowing anything about who they really are as a human. So we're all flawed. We all have positive things about us. We all have negative things about us. So for me, being human is caring for one another, paying it forward. Again, I know I keep saying that, paying it forward, and just doing the right thing to do the right thing, even when no one's watching. Do it because it's right, not because somebody's watching you do the right thing. Because I believe in karma. I do believe it comes back to you. There's been moments in my life where something bad has happened to me, and I've looked back and I've said, well, that was karma from that time that I pushed that girl that was a little slow in 6th grade. Like, my brain will connect to that moment. Like, I don't know if that's God literally saying, hey, man, that was that moment. But you know what I'm saying? I take solace in that. And I say, yeah, I deserve that. That was fucked up. I shouldn't have did that. So I believe good comes back to good. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, but for the most part, I feel like the universe has a way of doing what's right. Eventually, even if if it feels like it's going to take forever to get there, it might be 7 years from now, but a good deed you did today is going to come back. And a bad deed will too. So that's what human means to me. Good karma. Put good in, put good out, get in, get good out.
And with that being said, folks, I want to bring this interview to a close. Thank you so much for coming aboard this platform, King Vir2ue. I appreciate you. This
Thanks
interview
for having me.
was special.
I hope you
No
enjoyed it.
problem at all. I loved it. This has went on for 2 hours, which is usually not the normal time, but this is great. I'm very happy that I was
Yeah,
able to
thank you for
capture
pushing it
all of
back.
what you said. No problem at all. And without further ado, I want to bring this interview to a close by saying thank you for all of those who are tuning in and for those who will be listening on the audio platforms. This took place on IG Live. And without further ado, please remember the most important thing, that we are all human. Have a great night, and I look forward to another interview. See
Thank you,
you
brother.
later, and I'll be talking to you soon. No
Yes, sir.
problem at all.